coming at you live, covering all things professional wrestling. A show by members of the Busted Open Nation. Welcome to the Nation's Corner. Here are your hosts, the Nation's Corner crew.
Yo, what's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to the Nation's Corner. I am Front Row, joined as always by Debhausen, the great and powerful, and someone who's quickly becoming a regular on the show from the Too Sweet Cosplay and from our Nation's Sports Show, Ezra. What's up, Ez?
What's going on, everybody? Glad to be back on here again this week. Appreciate it as always, and can't wait to talk to RESSLIN. That spells wrestling.
Yeah.
Nice. What are we drinking, Deb?
It's from a Pennsylvania winery, shop local. It is a cherry wine, and it's freaking delicious.
Sounds amazing. Good way to start off the evening.
Hell yeah.
I'm just looking at the chat. My goodness, it's lit up already. I see Dave Mitchell's out there. I see, oh my God, Seth's out there. There's a ton of people logging in. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I appreciate y'all. It's been a super busy week. We're going to talk some business. We're going to talk some releases and then maybe some high points of some of the fun stuff that we're enjoying. But I wanted to start tonight with an observation. So right now in the world of pro wrestling, there's a lot of options, which is an amazing time to be a fan. Even in our own group, we all watch different things. Some of us watch the same things. Some of us watch different things. But on any given week, for example, like Deb might watch 3 things that I don't watch, and I might watch 3 things that you don't watch, and Ezra watches everything. So,
somehow.
But I see so much conversation online about, oh, you should be watching my show because my show is better than your show. And I think as fans, we sort of say, oh, I didn't get a chance to see that. Like, what cool stuff should I go check out? Can I watch clips? So I wanted to get your perspectives on that, but also like, because there's so much great stuff out there, we literally can't watch everything. There's just, like Ezra, you were saying before we went live, there's like 3 or 4 things on tonight at the same time. And that's just like any given Saturday.
Yeah.
So Deb, I want to start with you. What's your perspective on like the overwhelming amount of content?
It is an overwhelming amount of content, and there's new content constantly. Like there's so many, outside of just the weekly wrestling shows, there's so much additional content. Like WWE has the A&E shows. They now have that Stephanie's Places show. They now have this like writer's room show that they're going to be coming out with. And so it's a lot of content to keep up with if you're really interested in it. And for me personally, for the last, couple months or so, I've kind of gotten to the point where like I'm trimming back on the amount of content I consume, because it did get overwhelming for me to keep up with everything, or at least attempt to keep up with everything. So I'm kind of just focusing on the stuff that for me demands my attention when I watch it. Like for me, if I kind of realize that I'm spending a lot of the show just on my phone scrolling social media, then maybe that's a signal that show isn't capturing enough of my attention, and maybe my time would be better served watching something else. So that's kind of where I am with it. Not that, I dislike certain shows and that's why I don't watch it, but like you said, it's just so much to keep up on that like Monday, I didn't watch Raw because I was like, throughout the day, I was like, man, I don't know. I kind of just feel like watching something else tonight. And I'm sure it was a great show, but it was just a night where I'm like, I'm not feeling up to it. We watched the Goldbergs for several hours.
You watched Bill Goldberg? That's so weird. But okay.
No. But yeah, that's where I'm at. But I don't disparage anyone for watching a show that I choose not to watch. It's just, personal preference.
So part of the conversation that we've had, and I think as we talked about this on the last show, was that coming out of Mania week, there was 41 hours of Busted Open. There was 100 hours of wrestling. There was like more stuff than any one person can consume. And all of our favorite podcasters had amazing interviews. And there was so much stuff. And I came out of that week going, I feel like I missed a lot of important stuff, but it wasn't possible to consume all of it.
Right.
Fortunately, in our group, someone can say, hey, this happened and this happened. You kind of get caught up with stuff. But
Yeah.
So Ezra, I know for you, like you tend to watch more of the indie stuff and more of the GCW. You stay on top of some of the stuff that we don't get to see. So what's your balance like?
Well, it's pretty simple. 4 words. I have no life. But no. No. To be honest, it's hard to balance everything, you know. Obviously with my new job and the way my job is, I'm at home more most of the time, so I'm able to consume content like Busted Open every morning and catching up on certain things. But even then, it does get a little bit too much. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I missed out on, like, but I'll catch later on if I have the time. Like, for instance, I was not up at 2 a.m. this morning watching New Japan Pro Wrestling like I used to when I was a midnights worker. But now, here's what I did. I caught up a few hours later. I caught up on the show, caught the main event, caught what I needed to see, got the big points out of the way and done.
Yeah.
You know, with the, like you said, try to watch a little bit of everything, but obviously it's hard to do. Luckily I pick and choose what I want personally. Like, of course, I keep an eye on the main shows throughout the week. I try to. Dynamite, you know, Collision, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, TNA. I always do. Because I want to know, and I want to know what I'm getting into as far as those stories. Obviously, I can't watch every single Pro Wrestling Revolver show or GCW show. I try, but they're on at weird hours. They're on at a certain area. You know, certain times you're busy doing something like afternoon shows.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to catch them on, but I try to balance it as much as I can, depending on my schedule. I don't catch everything, but I catch most of it.
It's funny because today I was mowing the lawn and I was like, I finished listening to Busted Open. I said, you know what, I'm really kind of I want to take a break from listening to wrestling related podcasts. So I'm a big fan of Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, Inside of You. He has a lot of great celebrity guests on there. So I turned on the latest episode. It was Emily Beth Rickards, who, you know, who was a co-star in Arrow, but was also the lead on Queen of the Ring.
Oh yeah.
So they ended up talking about wrestling for like most of the show. And I'm like, I can't escape this stuff. It's insane. But it was a really good interview. So yeah, I mean, it is interesting to figure out what your balance is. There's a couple of podcast hosts who I pay attention to, like Chris Van Vliet and Sam Roberts, and there's a lot of people out there putting out good content. Obviously Busted Open, but so here's what I want to jump to. So from today, yesterday, there was a lot of conversation about the recent releases, and this has sort of been, the conversation has been done to death about who's been released. Everybody has feelings about who's been released and the surprises and all that stuff, but I wanted to get your perspective on, I look at things from a business perspective, you know, both from my normal shoot job, you know, in the business world, and, you know, being part of a wrestling promotion, looking at the business side of things. When these releases happen, they suck. Like, I've been laid off, it sucks. But I also understand that there's usually a business reason for getting, you know, for releasing a talent. Either they're not using them, or there's a myriad of reasons. It could just be budgetary. Maybe somebody's overpaid. I don't know. But like, so I want to get your perspective on the fans' view of the releases versus like the business, because I've seen a lot of both.
Right. For me personally, as from the fan perspective, you know, yeah, like you said, it sucks. It sucks to see people lose their job. But we know in this current climate of wrestling that, you know, if they get let go from one company, you know, it doesn't have to be the end of their career. There are other options nowadays for places to go to make a decent living, or even like I'm sure you guys saw Cardona's tweet last night, where he said, you have 3 options. And, option number 3 was work your ass off, grind, and have some fucking fun doing it. And, Cardona is the perfect example of that. He got released in 2020 and he decided, no, that's not going to stop me. And he worked his ass off and continues to work his ass off 5 years later. So yeah, we know it's not the end of their career. It's more up to them then to decide what they want to do. But some of the releases leave me scratching my head. And that's where it kind of goes to the business side. Like, okay, I get if someone's not being used, there's no creative for them, then it's probably best, like, hey, let them go, let them, find their creativity and find their joy elsewhere. That's perfectly acceptable to me. What leaves me scratching my head is people being released that not only are in active storylines, but people that have absolutely showed star potential promise. People like Cora Jade and Gigi Dolan. People that like they've been featured on NXT as recently as 2 weeks, or TNA as recently as 2 weeks ago. And I'm pretty sure that means they've been featured on NXT as well. So it's like this isn't a person that was just sitting in catering or sitting at home not being used. This isn't a person that you have no creative for them, or that they've been there for a while and just haven't really showed much promise or not progressing. Like, these are people that are stars and that were being used. So that kind of, as a fan and from the business side, that's what leaves me scratching my head with this.
Yeah, and so there's that side of it too, right? Where someone says, "Oh, why did they release my favorite wrestler?" Okay, well, there's only so much time on TV, even though there's a lot of content. So who should they have? Who else should they have gotten rid of to make room for your favorite wrestler?
Right.
But to your point, and as I want to get your thoughts here too, like, as to Deb's point, there are several people, including, to me, Cora Jade's the biggest head scratcher. Braun Strowman was helping to elevate people, even as more recently as like Jacob Fatu, but I never really saw an evolution of his character. I felt like Braun Strowman was the same guy today as he was, however many years ago he debuted, for the most part. So for you, who are one or two of the names that either you were surprised by or you're looking forward to seeing do something outside of WWE?
Definitely Cora Jade and Gigi Dolan, because of, like Deb said, they were in active stories. They were on TV just recently. That kind of threw me for a bit of a loop. But another one for me that kind of shocked me was the person whose shirt you're wearing, and that's Shayna Baszler. Like, I understand she wasn't in anything significant. Pure Fusion Collective was kind of done and dusted when Sonya Deville was released a while back. But still, Shayna is one of the most, talented women that they have on the roster, because she's real. She's vicious. She's violent. She could, stretch 99% of the roster. She could do things that a lot of women can't do as far as her own ability. And to me, she's a woman that I think could have been, even higher in the WWE hierarchy. So to me, it kind of left me scratching my head, but I understand. Look, this is, like you said, from the business perspective, it is a business. Decisions have to be made based on a lot of different factors. I get that as, kind of a smarter fan. But it still sucks to see anybody lose their jobs. Now, Cora Jade and Gigi Dolan, we know, especially Gigi, who was on the indies beforehand, made a lot of waves, maybe not in the best of ways with some of her character stuff. But maybe, but I think she'll be a hard worker and get her name back out there. Cora, I think you can already see her going back to her OG ring name on Elena Black and starting to throw stuff out there. Luckily, these talents on NXT, they don't have to wait long. It's pretty much confirmed that they have 30-day non-compete clauses. So 30 days is all they have to wait compared to 90 days for main roster talent. So unfortunately, that's the same for Dakota Kai and and Shayna and Strowman and a few others. It just they're going to get back on their feet as long as they have the drive. It's like Matt said, hustle, bust your ass, make a name for yourself, sell as much merch as you can, make as many appearances as you can, because those are the things that are going to make you better and give you a bigger name. Because the indies are profitable. People don't realize that the independent scene is profitable if you just work your ass off and have the drive to do so. It's not a death sentence to be released from a company if you're able to make it work in that climate.
Yeah, and there's to your point, there's some big names that have gone out there and done things. Either like Cody left under his own power; it was his decision to leave. He goes out there, kills it in the Indies, Ring of Honor, all these things. AEW, he helps create that company, kills it there, and comes back, and now he's arguably the biggest star on the planet when it comes to pro wrestling. Someone else who I think who has really figured out how to make themselves better and better and better was Chelsea Green. She left the company several times and came back, and now she's a huge star. She's one of the focal points of the show every week. So, yeah, I mean, Drew McIntyre, there's a whole list of people that went out there and did their thing and came back better than before, which is great. And I think Cora Jade is probably one of those people who will figure that out. I think she'll go out there and kill it and do whatever and come back.
She's already making plans. Earlier on Twitter, not that long ago, about an hour or so ago, if that, Shotzi and Cora Jade, Elena Black, was already tweeting each other back and forth that they want to have a triple threat with Jimmy Lloyd. Both of them apparently have unfinished business with a different boy, Jimmy Lloyd, in GCW. So come on, let's do it. Let's do it.
Brett Lauderdale, and you're watching the show, and we know you are not, but if you are,
he's getting ready for a show right now.
Book it, brother.
Yes, book it. Let's go. Come on, making plans.
But Shayna's a good example too, because like I think that Shayna was a better version of Ronda Rousey than Ronda Rousey. Shayna trained on the Indies. She trained under Josh Barnett. She put her time in PWG, all these different places, and really figured out how to meld MMA and pro wrestling. She's one of the best to ever put those two things together, in my opinion. I just don't. I think maybe there was maybe her personality didn't click with people, or she wasn't a big enough presence on the mic. I don't know what it was, but they just never really figured out what exactly to do with her. Like the NXT version of her was great, but she also had, Marina and Jessamine with her there as well. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what she does. Bloodsport's an obvious answer, but that's not, that's not a weekly TV show. So we'll see where she lands.
So for me as a fan, one of the things that kind of gives me apprehension, it's like a double-edged sword, because for so many years, we kind of wished that the WWE wouldn't isolate themselves so much in the wrestling industry. And now we're seeing, the crossover with Natty and Shayna being able to do Bloodsport. Nakamura did a couple appearances in Japan. Now with the partnership with TNA, we're really seeing WWE integrate themselves into the rest of the wrestling industry, which is great. But at the same time, like, especially with these releases, it gives me a little apprehension as a fan. It's like, okay, so did you just allow those people to do outside bookings because you didn't have anything for them, and then you're just going to let them go? Like, it makes me feel like they're just going to be kind of using those outside bookings to just unload their unused talent. That's the only apprehension I have.
Yeah, I think I share that feeling. But there's also, there's more and more places for people to do their thing. I think this might be a big year for NWA. I think it feels like Billy Corgan's like doing a grassroots like rebuild. It feels like there's a build of newer stars there, and then bringing in established people like Natty is a huge thing. So I'm hoping that this is a big year for NWA. Maybe they make use of some of the talents that have been released, whether it's on weekly programming or But it's like anything else. Like, okay, somebody gets released and they're a big dollar presence. You go, well, most people can't afford that. So I know,
Right.
we had heard that was an issue with Braun Strowman when he had originally left the company, that he was just priced himself out of the market, which
Right.
if you can afford it, that's great. But at some point you want to get hired. So we'll see how this goes the second time around.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to switch gears for a second, because a quick pause. I wanted to wish our good friend Izzy a happy birthday. Her birthday was on Thursday. She is now 18. She is one of the most exciting free agents in pro wrestling. I'm very interested to see what happens for our friend and where she goes and what she does.
Yes.
So it
very
was
much so.
10 years ago in July when we met Izzy and her family. So it's been a hell of a ride. They've been through a lot, so I'm very happy for them. I'm happy for her.
Me too. It's insane. Like when I first started listening to Busted Open, she was like this cute little kid that like would call in, and she had such like a little squeaky voice, and she was like, "Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm 9." And now she's like, an adult and about to like really embark on the beginning of what we hope is an amazing and long career.
Yeah, now she's been training for years, and she's been training BJJ, and she's gonna, she's gonna get in there and fuck somebody up. She'll do it.
Yeah, for sure.
By the way,
so
real quick, Virgo, Deb mentioned Matt Cardona earlier. Tonight Matt Cardona is going to be on the GCW show tonight. Well, Effie had the best tweet ever. If he gets to pay just to talk, I'm 3-minute warning his segment and robbing every dollar from his fanny pack.
Nice,
man.
Nice. Okay, so I want to sort of hit on a couple of things that really got me interested this week. I don't like going through match by match, because honestly, the things, and to your point earlier, Deb, the things that are jumping out to me are storyline and character driven, which is kind of how wrestling should be. We were talking about the attack on Michael Cole and Pat McAfee getting choked out by Gunther, and how's that all going to look? Well, Pat McAfee jumps on the table on the announce desk and cuts a promo. I don't even like calling it a promo. It was like, this is who I am, and I know this guy can kill me, but I'm sticking up for my friend, and I want to fight him. And I was like, man, I hate to put it this way, he's a better promo than a lot of the people who are on TV. Maybe because he's given different freedoms. I don't know. Maybe there's some of that. But at the same time, I mean, we were all just watching the screen going, what are we watching? This is incredible. And I know Gunther should kill him, but I have to see this match now. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I love Pat McAfee. I've loved him for a long time. I know sometimes like he rubs people the wrong way for some reason. Some people really, really don't like him, but I love him. And for some reason, a lot of people are like super shitting on this. Like, oh, he's just a commentator. Well, he's not really. Like, until we saw Bad Bunny, Pat McAfee was the best like celebrity wrestling match we had seen. And he was a star football player. He's a top-notch athlete. And to your point about him, like how good he is at talking, he's on the air for 3 hours every day. Like his show, isn't his show 3 hours long? Every single day he talks for 3 hours into a microphone. So he's got, I think, like a crap ton of more experience than most people at just talking, like no script, just talking. And it's definitely mismatched because he's not a wrestler, but he can wrestle, and Gunther is fucking Gunther. But yeah, I want to see it. And him getting choked out was like, good Lord. Like,
and he sold that like for
oh my God.
20 minutes. Yeah, it felt like it. Ezra, is there any world in which Pat wins this fight?
unless there's some outside interference or something, I don't see Pat winning this. Look, Pat isn't. We know he's an athlete beyond an athlete. I mean, kicker, all punter, all that stuff. We know his athletic background. I mean, he's had banger matches with guys like Adam Cole and and Austin Theory and stuff like that. We've seen him wrestle before. We know how good he is and how much of a natural he is. But if you're talking Gunther versus Pat McAfee, Gunther should rip him in half like a piece of tissue paper off a Christmas present. Okay? But look, I think it's going to be an ultra competitive contest. I think Gunther is probably going to do what he does.
Sir.
RJ, shame on you.
Sir. But honestly, I think it's going to be an ultra competitive match. I think it's going to be one of them stories where Gunther doesn't take Pat seriously until Pat gets Gunther in trouble, and then we see the beat down, and then whatever happens. But like you said, that whole segment, that, like you said, I don't even want to call it a promo either. That was phenomenal. And the reason is because part of it was story, part of it was real. And that's what makes it. I think Pat is allowed to say what he wants as long as it's within context of the story that he's trying to tell, whether it's somebody else's or whether it's his own.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to give a shout out. I think it was Tony who said this on Zoom when y'all were watching it and I wasn't watching. I saw the clip later on. I could obviously see on Zoom that y'all were like just captivated by whatever Pat was saying. And I think it was Tony that said that it was like his version of a Hard Times promo. And I would definitely agree with that. When I watched it back, the line that really got me was when he said, "If I die, I die." Like, that's like, oh shit.
Yeah. I do think that there's a path forward for Pat. I think that if there's a stipulation at a street fight, something could be a street fight, something with weapons, something to level out the playing field a little bit. It sort of deviates away from Gunther's, mat technician style of, wrestling that he brings to the table. Because if it's a straight up match, then what are we doing here? There has to be something to make it interesting to me.
Yeah, agreed.
A couple of really fun things happened this week. For the first time in her career, Zelina Vega is a title holder now. She is the new United States champion. And it's awesome to me because I feel like I hate the whole "you deserve it" bullshit, but my God, she deserves it. She's put the time in. She's battled The Office and won with the whole like content stuff that she was doing. And with everything, her reception in Puerto Rico and the work that she's put in, she's an amazing wrestler, especially for someone who's smaller to do the stuff that she does. That's so believable and so hard hitting. I think the world of her, and I'm super excited for her to be the new U.S. champ.
Same. It's so funny now that you mentioned her battle with like the putting, doing content, like online content. It was the Twitch, right? That was the whole thing.
It's video gaming.
Like in today's world of how everything is happening, isn't that kind of stupid to like think back on that was that much of an issue then? Like everybody has like their social media content that they do that enhances the product that gets additional fans. Like everybody utilizes their social media following to the fullest now. It's kind of like looking back at that was such a big deal at the time. It's kind of stupid.
Well, the issue wasn't that they didn't want her to do the content. They were starting up their own.
Their cut.
They wanted their own piece. They wanted to make the money off of her content, which is what they did with Up, Down, Down, initially anyway. And she was like, "No, F you, it's my show."
It's like, to me, it's kind of like, similar to thinking back to Cardona and the beginnings of Zack Ryder. Like, he wanted to do a YouTube channel thing, and they were like, "No, we're good. We don't need to do that." Like, How silly does that sound nowadays?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
even through Long Island Story got a bunch of hits.
Right? And now with how big WWE YouTube content is, like not only with their regular stuff, but the vault and all the that additional stuff that they do, like it sounds so silly to think about now.
Yeah. Yeah, and how cool for that household, right? So she wins the title, and on the same night her husband makes a return to WWE. We have Aleister Black is back, and I'm very excited. I love the entrance, getting as a remix of his original NXT theme, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ezra, I know for you were a fan of his, and I don't know that we were all super stoked for how it ended in AEW, but initially it looked good. So what do you think happens with him now?
To be honest, I don't know, but it makes it that much more exciting because of this specific era that we're in. This specific era that we're in with WWE, especially with Triple H at the helm, there's been a lot more good than there has been bad, especially with talent, whether they come back or debut. And Aleister is one of those talents, in my opinion, that was not even close to use the way he was when he came up. They had the whole thing where he was knock at my door and challenge me, and then they had him do the whole. It was all a bunch of weird stuff that didn't correlate with the character that he was trying to portray. And to me, when it comes down to with that character, I think overall Malachi is or Aleister right now, with the original theme, with the old school entrance, everything back to basics. This is the Aleister Black that we needed to see. To me, it wouldn't have made any sense if they did anything different. If they completely death rebelled him, if they did something else, it wouldn't have been as perfect as it was when he came back. And his match with the Miz, which by the way was phenomenal. Miz being a ring general as always. To me, I could see him going after the United States Championship eventually. Here very, very soon. As soon as this whole situation with Drew, LA Knight, Jacob Fatu, et cetera, kind of gets, finally gets done. That's where I see him going. I know right now, I think what we're possibly looking at, maybe Backlash, could be Aleister versus Carmelo Hayes, which I think that would be a pretty awesome match, just based on talent. But I'm excited to see where he goes from here, and I do trust Triple H when it comes to this.
Yeah, to me, okay, so that matchup does nothing for me because I'm not a Carmelo Hayes guy yet. I think he's very talented, but he's still kind of, I don't know. He just doesn't captivate me. To me, he's a speed bump for Aleister Black. But I could be wrong. The story could develop. It could be great. I don't know. But it's interesting because as we talk about, people going out, leaving, and coming back, one of the people that I thought has done something completely different with his career since coming back to WWE is Karrion Kross. He's done a lot of Easter eggs. He's dropped a lot of Easter eggs throughout a lot of the stuff that he's been doing. He's been doing a lot of manipulation. He's done a lot of plotting and planning and all that stuff, and not in a wrestling character way, but just getting into people's brain, getting into their ears, and doing some of the stuff that he's been doing on social media has been incredible, to the point where, when Sam and Megan were doing the recap show, and he had that viral moment where he just sits down and just unloads on his position about, F those guys, and they released my contract online, and he just unloads and completely out of character. And then I see that it's part of a WWE YouTube show that they didn't take down or edit. So what's in character and what's not? So my point in bringing this up is he just released a documentary yesterday. I think it's called Killer, but I'm not sure. Look at his YouTube channel. And it's about 50 minutes long, and it takes you through. It's an interview. It's a thought process leading up through WrestleMania weekend, his perspective on not being on the card, being part of Bloodsport, and also that viral moment with Sam and Megan on the show. It is absolutely critical that you watch this because I think that all of the stuff in there is going to play a part into the character development of him on TV. So how do you guys feeling about like what he's bringing, and like, is it intriguing to you at all?
So for me, I think yes, what he is doing is intriguing. However, I don't really know if I have the faith in creative to really allow it to come to fruition the way that he envisions it. I think, we've seen this a few times with various people, with Carrion, I with the Wyatt Six, even, where it's like it starts off so hot and so promising and it's so captivating, and then it's like it reminds me of when they did their version of Broken Matt Hardy, where it was like, you could tell that this isn't what the wrestler really wants to do, but they're almost being held back, and it just doesn't click right. So that's my apprehension, that I'm absolutely interested in what he wants to do, but it's, will he be able to like tell his story the way he wants to, and will it come to fruition in the right way?
Yeah, so there's a piece in there where he's sitting down with like his best friend,
Yeah.
and they're talking about what's next for you, like what is, and the conversation happens after the Sam show incident, right? He's
Okay.
like, this big thing happens, like what's next for you? And Scarlett talks about he's only going to do stuff that fuels his passion or fuels his soul. He doesn't do stuff for money. He
Mhm.
only is going to do things that are creatively satisfying to him and fulfilling to him. But also, the next phase is getting that blood sport killer cross, not killer cross, because that's a whole other thing, but like getting
But
that
he
version
keeps
of him, the
saying
real.
Killer Cross in his
He presents it, yes, and he presents it as a part of him that is locked away. And if that comes out, then like everybody's at risk, basically.
Everybody's fucked. Let's just be
Yeah.
point blank here.
Yeah. But he very carefully protects that, like Finn protects the demon. Like that's sort of the vibe I get from the Killer Cross versus Carrion Cross. But there's a lot of conversation in that about him being as real as possible. And then you see the viral moment and you're like, oh, okay. If you've watched the interviews that he's done with Chris Van Vliet or with Sam, he talks a lot about how much time he spends into the long-term planning and development of this character that is outside of the character from a fan's perspective, but still not. So I'm fascinated by it because there's so many layers to what he's doing right now. Like his manipulation of different wrestlers behind the scenes and hanging out in the background talking to people, and just all this stuff is, and his social media game's on point.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. The social media stuff is top notch. That's the majority of what I see. But yeah, like I hope that it's able to kind of play out the way, how it's intended, so that we can, get like a satisfying story. Because I was really into what he was doing with AOP. Like I was really into that. And then AOP just randomly gets let go. So then it was like, okay, well, what now?
Yeah. I think so. And thank you, Calvin, for joining. I think Calvin's point is that will we get that character? I think what we're getting is the actual, and just using his name, I think we're getting Kevin / Carrion mixed, and we're getting that not only on social media, not only in this documentary, but we're getting it on WWE content, on YouTube, on their socials, on their TV. I think they're figuring out a way to spread this character, to put breadcrumbs with this character throughout the whole thing. So I'm really excited by it because it's a new way to present. Everything counts, right? Rule 3 of Not Saying Wrestling. Everything counts.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on one more WWE thing and then we'll move on. But I'm always super happy when talented women get to main event a show. And last night, Jade Cargill and Tiffany Stratton faced off against Nia Jax and Naomi. Naomi, I think this is the best version of her we've ever seen. This heel run for her has been transformative from a career standpoint. I was really excited. It was a good match. It was good. It was good back and forth. The setup for it during the show made sense. I just thought it was cool.
Same.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, this was another awesome women's main event, and we've been getting a lot more of those. Thank goodness, we've been seeing that. And, these are 4 elite women here. Even Naya's improved so much over the past years. We've seen her drastically improve as a performer. And, Naomi is on another level with this new character. Obviously, Jade is just an absolute phenom. And then, of course, Tiffy is really coming to her own as a performer herself. And you put those 4 women together in a tag main event, and you set up seeds and stories for future pay-per-view matches. Oh, you got yourself a excellent way to end an awesome SmackDown that it was. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for what they're building right now with this women's division because, it's obviously, not counting the whole Becky Lynch, Lana Valkyrie situation over on Raw. We're specifically talking about this, but, they're just starting to really build these new seeds for let's just say the upcoming new season, if you will.
If you will.
Yeah. So, and Deb, I want to kick things over to you for a second, but you mentioned Lyra Valkyria and Becky. Lyra Valkyria powered through that promo in an impassioned way, did not let that crowd take over, and they tried. And God bless her. She just took over and she changed her cadence. It was very passionate. It was very, very personal. And then the physicality afterwards was very, very good. I thought it was like one of those, like, oh, this is a standout appearance for her. So I thought it was really cool. But I wanted to ask, so like we do one of the shows that we all watch, to go back to the statement in the beginning of the show, we all watch TNA now. It is like sort of the linchpin for the whole group. Like we all watch different things, but all of us watch TNA on Thursdays.
Mhm.
And it's been super exciting. So Deb, I just want to start with you. Like, what are a couple of the things that are going on right now that are exciting to you?
So it's tough because a lot of my favorite people have recently left TNA. So it's really tough. Like, I think they're in this interesting transition period right now. I am really interested to see what Indy Hartwell does. I think it's awesome that she landed in TNA, so I'm interested to see what she does. Cody Deaner had an incredible promo this week that if I could go off on a rant for just a split second, God, I can't stand the what chance. I can't. We should never hear the what chance unless Stone Cold is in the ring. Because Cody Deaner was giving this heartfelt promo about this is his last night on TNA and blah, blah, blah. And they're like not only whatting, but they're not even like normally with the what chance, it like keeps the rhythm. So they what in the pauses between the talking. They weren't even doing that. They were like whatting over him. And it was like shut the fuck up and let him talk. Okay, done.
No, and I think that's valid. It drives me crazy too, especially when a wrestler changes up their cadence to negate the what chant, and they're still trying to get it in, and it doesn't make sense. It sounds like shit.
But yeah, TNA's been pretty good. I do wish Joe Hendry. So back to your question, because I didn't really fully answer your question. My favorite thing right now in TNA is Joe Hendry and Hardys versus Nemitz. Wow, dirty. Jesus.
I'm gonna put that up.
Dirty, you are awesome, brother. Thank you.
So yeah, Hardys and Nemitz is kind of the coolest thing, and they're just killing it, and Joe Hendry's killing it. That's it.
So a couple of things. Okay, so I want to touch on that for a second. Joe Hendry is fucking everywhere, right? Joe Hendry is all over my feed. He's in he's just everywhere. There was a point in time not that long ago where someone in the wrestling business said to me, Joe Hendry is going to burn out and people will get sick of him. Well, it has not happened, clearly, since he was at WrestleMania. Did you hear he had a WrestleMania match? They may have mentioned it 100
against
times
Randy
this
fucking
week.
Orton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure you had heard.
Yeah. It's kind of like, hey, did you hear that Tommy Dreamer had a feud with Raven?
Wow, really? That is brand new information.
I think Joe Hendry's awesome, and I really like what he's doing. If he does go to WWE, I don't know what they're going to do with him, but I see him as like LA Knight. Take LA Knight. He's wildly popular. People love him. I got a chance to talk to him when he was in NWA, and he's a great dude, and I'm super happy for his success. I don't get it. It's the same thing he's been doing since TNA or Impact and NWA, and now he's doing the same thing. To me, Joe Hendry is a character that's defined. That's it. We're getting the Joe. Now, I could be wrong. He's an amazing performer. If he goes to WWE and starts to get more time to be creative and add layers, maybe we'll get that. But right now, I feel like I don't know how well that would work over there, but I am excited for him. It is a really cool time to be Joe Hendry for sure. Are you guys burned out on him or no?
Not even close.
Huh.
Okay.
Give me more.
Dude, look, TNA right now as a company has done an incredible job building their stories, really bringing their talent, even with this mix with NXT. I mean, they've really done some incredible work. I mean, if you take a look, one of my favorite things right now, obviously, besides Joe, is I'm loving what's going on with, or I love the evolution of Leon Slater. I mean, Leon has become one of the most exciting individuals in pro wrestling right now because of his athletic ability. That Swanton 450 he does is an absolute thing of beauty. Not many people could do what he does in the ring, and he's got a charisma about him. He's very energetic. He's a guy that doesn't just rely on moves. He's a guy who's got character behind him too. His stuff is battles with the system, which, by the way, those guys are doing an awesome job too with that group, the system. Moose especially. Moose has been on another level. I mean, matches with Opa Femi. He did that Ultimate X match, which obviously is not his forte, at all, but he did it. It's crazy to say, you got to think 10 years ago, we all would have thought TNA was dead and buried. We all thought they were clinging to life, but now they're more alive than ever. And I'm excited to see what the future holds. Yes, the Scott D'Amore thing was a big blow when he got canned, but you know what? You could tell TNA is still thriving. It's just a matter of how far can they go, how much more can they go forward, and that's going to be interesting to see over the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I always say is I think they've figured out their lane and they've figured out how to be the very best at what they're doing. We saw the infusion of Robert Stone and Victoria Crawford this week, which I thought was really interesting. Yeah. We're seeing Santino Morello losing power backstage and how that's all going to play out, and Tessa sort of siding with Robert Stone. I love all of that stuff. But I don't want this show to end without us talking some AEW. So I saw some clips, and I'm not the expert here. So Deb, give us a couple things that are exciting to you from AEW this week.
I think one of the biggest things that's exciting to me is the whole MJF Hurt Syndicate stuff. I think they're doing a wonderful job of doing this slowly and actually not rushing this. And I think it's going to take some time to retrain people because, they talk on Busted Open a lot that a lot of AEW viewers are so used to them rushing through stuff that I think when they actually do slow down and take things slow, then people are like, oh, this is going nowhere. So I think it's going to take some time to retrain people to, give it time, just see where it goes. I think that this has been beautifully played with MJF and the Hurt Syndicate. And these guys are just absolute badasses. And on paper, you wouldn't think that pairing MJF with them would work, but I think it's working. And I'm really interested to see where it goes. Another thing I'm really interested in is Josh Alexander in the Don Callis family. I think that's just, I think the Don Callis family has really kind of come into their own recently. That, there was some change in membership, as people came and went. But I think that not only bringing Josh Alexander in, but I think that Kyle Fletcher has really found his groove. And he's just shining every week. So those are some big things that I really like right now. But there's also, the stuff with the Young Bucks. There's Samoa Joe challenging Mox in a steel cage. He choked out Mox. What was that, last week? So
Yep.
yeah, I think they're kind of at a point right now where they're just week by week, they're just slowly killing it. And they just made the announcement yesterday that they're going to have a residency at ECW Arena, 2300 Arena. We're going to try to get tickets for the Death Before Dishonor show. I've never been to a Ring of Honor show before, so I'm going to try to get tickets for that. But yeah, I think they're just killing it like every week. I think they're really putting together some good storylines and slowing it down. Like this week, Dynamite only had 3 matches. A lot of it was storytelling this week. So I think they're doing a much better job of just not having random matches, that they had 3 matches on a show and all of them were either the matches were part of the story or it was used as a storytelling device, that whatever the aftermath of the story or the aftermath of the match was furthering a storyline. So I think they're doing a good job with that now.
So I didn't catch Dynamite this week, but I watched it with you guys last week. And I remember at the end of the show we were all sort of saying, wow, the pacing was good. I felt like I got a chance to digest what they were presenting, and we all sort of came away feeling like the production and whatever the magic behind the scenes was, it felt like a really solid show. So I hope they continue doing that, because as much as the fast-paced shows are exciting, it is hard to sort of absorb what you're seeing. And if you're giving a lot of story details, some of that stuff needs to breathe and soak in. So I'm glad to hear that they're doing more of that. And I do want to give a shout out to our good friends, obviously John, one of the co-hosts here, and our friend Andre are at Collision tonight. So I'm excited for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for me personally, as like, a dedicated AEW fan, I've been noticing more and more kind of just a general like excitement level that, there was a while where like, oh, AEW is doing a show nearby. Yeah, I don't need to go. But now it's like, oh my God, I get to go to AEW tonight. This is fucking awesome. But yeah, I've noticed that there's definitely been a shift in the excitement level for AEW.
Well, and on the women's side too, because I know for a long time we were critical of the way that the women's division was presented. We've got cohesive stories now, but you've also got like major stars in Toni Storm and Mariah May and Harley Cameron. I do not miss any. I never skip over or scroll past a clip with Harley Cameron. I saw the one with Megan Bain. Oh my God, she's just, everything she does is entertaining. So
yeah,
to have someone like that in the division who is so captivating, obviously Toni Storm doing the character that she's done for the last however many years at this point has been incredible. And to see Mercedes is starting to have some legit challengers, which I think is, I love Athena. I love the presentation of Athena. She's just, killed it in Ring of Honor. So I'm excited about that as well.
Yeah, and tonight on Collision we have Harley versus Megan Bayne and Toni Storm versus Lady Frost, with an eliminator match. So we get to see Lady Frost on TV again. That's nice.
Awesome. Shout out to Lady Frost, friend of the show.
Yep.
Yeah,
Previous
but
guest.
I think with the AEW, I don't know the exact numbers because I don't write things down, but the women have been main eventing more often than not lately.
Well, that was sort of a characteristic of Collision when it started. They main evented a lot on Collision in the early days anyway.
But even on Dynamite lately, women main evented 2 or 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great. Like we talk about this, we're at the point now where the talent is recognized and the stories drive that spot. So it's not even I know I mentioned it earlier, but really across the board on all the major companies, the stories are driving match placement. So if you have like we talked about on WrestleMania, the women having that incredible match to open the show and stealing the entire, for some people, stole the show that day. So yeah. So, and I know we want to all go watch Collision, and I would like to have dinner. So
Me too.
I do, Ezra. Thank you again for joining us again tonight on short notice. We appreciate you.
Yep.
Where can people find you? What are you up to?
You can find me at Deadman469 across most of my socials. You can also follow me at Too Sweet Cosplay, my wrestling themed cosplay group out of Chicago. We got a panel set up, or not a panel, a meetup set up for a photo shoot at Anime Central at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center on May 18th. It'll be in Hall F. If you can find that in the building, you can meet us there. Tickets are available at acen.org. And then follow Our Nation Sports Show at Our Nation Sports Show on most of our socials, except for our Twitter, which is ON_Sports Show. Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Talk all things in the wonderful world of sports. We're going to be covering the NBA playoffs, NFL draft fallout. We're going to be covering that as well. So go ahead and hit the like button on all that and join us on Tuesday for sports and even a little bit of wrestling since I thrown in between. So check that out.
Awesome. Thanks, dude. Deb?
At That's So Debonair on the Twitter machine, the Instagram, the Blue Sky. Click the link in the profiles. Tonight we got a GCW coming out of Los Angeles. I'm going to try to stay awake for that. We'll see. And in 2 weeks, on the 17th, some of us are going to be going to ACW in Poughkeepsie, New York. LaGreca's going to be there. Tommy Dreamer's going to be there. Cardona's going to be there. Enzo's going to be there. It's going to be an awesome time. So I'm really excited about that and get together with some of our fellow crew people.
That's awesome. And I'm PW Front Row across all the socials. You can find us at Nation's Corner on X and The Nation's Corner on all the other socials. As always, we appreciate everybody joining us on a Saturday night. Thanks to everybody in the chat for participating. Enjoy this week. There's a lot of good stuff happening. We'll talk to you guys next Saturday. Thanks, everyone.